Hello everyone and welcome to Feature Supportability Training for Clarity 16.3.2. I am Vaia Malhotra, and as part of the section we will be talking about the enhancements made to Vaia. As part of Clarity 16.3.2, we have provided the ability for our users to define their own prompts for existing Vaia capabilities. In addition, they can pass additional data elements to the prompts as part of its definition. Customers that have been using the AI functionality have asked that instead of having the prompts predefined and hard-coded in the product, they would like to make some changes to it so that it can function as they desire. As part of this release, we are providing that capability to our customers. With that, let's see the product in action. So here I am in Clarity 16.3.2, and I'm going to go straight into the administrative functions for Vaia. Right here I am under the Enable AI, and you will see that I have several attributes within several objects that have been predefined to use Vaia capabilities. I'm going to go straight into the first, the one that is here is the idea one that I'm going to go into, which is the one that has three of the action modes already defined to it: the generate, review, and revise. When I open that up, you can see that now instead of having a predefined hard-coded prompt, you can see that the prompt fields are editable for all three of them. Here I can type in anything that I would want. In addition, we have also changed the screen where you can see that I am now editing the prompt capability for the object and the actual attribute inside of it. So the header of our prompt definition has also been updated. Next, for each one of these prompts, I can type in the value as I would want, or I can use the buttons that are available right below here to add additional either metadata or attribute information. And to do that, let's just add something right here that, and I can type anything, and when I click on the attribute, the add attribute button, I can see all the attributes that are available in the object that I am defining this. In this case, since I'm working with idea, these are all the attributes that are available. This will display to me the attributes that are defined within my object, as well as any attributes that are derived from its parent object, in this case, the investment. So let's just look at that. If I go back into administration, and I will go into attributes, and right here I have configured to kind of display to me two attributes that have been defined within my idea object. The first one is a derived attribute that's coming from the investments table. It's called the anticipated changes. And the second one is just called the contracted margin, which is defined within the idea object itself. If I go back into my Vaia and I go back into the attribute that I was editing, if I want to now include both of them, I can see that the first one that is being derived from the investment is listed right there. Clicking on it adds that attribute to my prompt, and the attribute syntax is very similar to the syntax that we have for notification, where you would see the object dot followed by the attribute ID, all within the square brackets and a $sign outside of it. If I want to add another one, which is the attribute that is defined in my the attribute that is defined in my idea itself, which is right here, contracted margin. I can add that right there. Yeah, let's fix some of those. All right. So it has added those two attributes. The way the adding on the attribute also works is I can click on anywhere in my sentence that I'm editing. So in this case, I have added moved my cursor into the between the word include and the, and now if I go in and select any attribute, it just inserted that attribute exactly where my cursor was. So that's just a useful tip for our administrators, that you don't have to add the attribute and then move that syntax around. You can click anywhere you want to include the attribute, and it'll add that syntax right there. The second thing is the add metadata. The add metadata basically provides only two options: the attribute and the object. And the syntax for it, let's just do that by selecting the attribute. The syntax for is the two hashtags followed by the object followed by the attribute ID for the attribute itself, and then the two hashtags again. In this case, when I pass or when I run the prompt, it will essentially pass the actual name for my attribute, which in this case is investment description. So this would be the exact value that is going to be passed when the prompt is run. Similarly, if I want to include the object attribute, I can just do that by selecting it from the metadata. In that case, it's again the syntax is hashtag hashtag followed by the actual object ID and then hashtag hashtag again. So I've kind of defined some prompt right here. If I now go back out and if I edit my the attribute definition itself and I remove the action mode, which is the generate action mode. So remember, when I was making the changes, I was modifying the generate action where I typed in my own prompt. If I now remove that from my definition saying that generate will not have the AI capabilities for it, if I go back inside, that is removed from the screen. Now let's go back and re-add it. And what you will see is that whatever I had typed earlier, that prompt will be returned. So we retain the prompt that you edit, even if you remove the action mode for that specific attribute itself. So we do retain that. However, if you want to totally reset this back to the out of the box prompt, then you can do so by using the reset to default button. When you click on that, we will give you a warning saying that if you are going to reset, then whatever changes you've made, those will be lost. By clicking on the reset, you can see all the changes that I have made is removed, and the prompt has been reset back to default value itself. Let's go and look at some of the other prompts. The next one that I want to look at is the status report generation. This was one of the very first prompts that we provided as part of Clarity AI capabilities. And this prompt basically has also now been opened up. But the way this prompt is set up is that I can type any information right here. I can use the same add attributes to add any of the additional attributes that I would want to pass to my prompt. And once I've done so, and when I execute the status report summarization, we will append the artifacts as defined or selected from this list. That is done automatically, and you do not need to specify that specific attribute or those artifacts in your prompt itself. We will append all of those at the end of it. And the same thing is mentioned right here on the screen. All right, let's go back out and let's look at one more prompt, which is for roadmap. In this case, the roadmap summarization. This is the prompt that we specify. Again, you can see it is editable. And similar to what we do for the status report summarization, we also append to the prompt that you define right here the specific data from the roadmap view itself. So whatever information you've selected in the roadmap, we will pass all of that information to the prompt that you define right here. All right. Now let's go back out and let me show you how this will function, where I have modified the prompt and I can essentially see it in action. To do that, I'm going to first show you the way I have defined it. Essentially, I have created a business rule. In that business rule, I have specified that I want specific methodology details or instructions as to how a data should be populated based on a specific methodology. So let's quickly go look at that. I'm going to go into administration, and then I'm going to go into blueprints, and within the blueprints I'm going to go into my project blueprint, and the one that I have modified is the project major. So right here, if you notice, I've added an attribute to my screen, which is the methodology. This will allow the user to select which methodology to use, and I have defined a rule which will capture the methodology description. So I can go right here. So it's just a simple rule that I've defined that if the methodology is selected as OKR, then it should use the specific instructions on populating the data. Similarly, if you're using Agile, I'll use another description and so on. Right? So it's a simple business rule that is defined that based on the methodology selected, it should use those specific instructions. All right, let's go look at that as to how it'll run. So I'm going to go into my project, and in here I'm going to go into my e-commerce portal project. All right, and right here, let's I've emptied out whatever value was there before because I want to first do a generation. And in order for me to do that, let's pick the SAFe methodology is what I want to use as the methodology that should be referenced when the objective for my project is created. All right. Actually, before I do that, let me show you how I have configured the prompts. So I'm going to go back into my modern UX. I'm going to go into my Vaia, and here for project objective, that is the one that I want to use for my demo purpose. If I go in here, I have specified a custom prompt. For generate, I've said that I want Vaia to generate a 200 word, and then I'm passing my attribute name, which is objective, for my object name, which is project, and whatever is the name of the project. And then I'm saying using the guidelines, and this is passing the attribute, which is the methodology, and the guideline details itself, which is the description, which is populated from the rule that I just showed you before this. Also, what I've done is I've updated the revise prompt, and for the revise prompt, I have just for something fun, what I've done is I've asked Vaia to rewrite the whole thing as a pirate, and it should use the methodology that is selected. All right, so I have updated, or I provided two custom prompts right here to my project objective that I can populate or revise using Vaia. Now let's go into my project, and let's go into e-commerce portal. Right, my objective for my project e-commerce portal is blank. If I go into the action item, I can click on generate. And at this point, it is using the safe methodology and is going to populate the content. And you can see that when it populated, it's referenced that you adhering to the safe methodology, and so on and so forth. The objective is populated. Let's go ahead and wipe that out just for demo purpose. And I'm going to change this to OKR methodology. So what I've done is I have just changed my methodology. So when I regenerate, I should not, or Vaia should not be using safe concept, but it should instead be using OKR. So if I go back and ask it to generate again, and once it's done, it comes back and it tells me that you can see now it's telling me what is the objective and key results. So it has changed how it is populating the content based on the methodology that I specified or I passed to it as the guidelines that Vaia should be using. All right. And then the last thing I want to show is, let's just take this one line just to keep it simple. And I'm going to ask Vaia to now revise this. And remember that my prompt said I want Vaia to revise it as a pirate speaking to me using the methodology, which in this case is the OKR methodology. All right, so let's go ahead and have it revise it. And you can see that it has kind of populated the data more as if a pirate talking to me, but yet retaining the OKR methodology. All right, so now that kind of shows how the prompt can be configured and can be updated based on your requirements. And that concludes our demo for this section, and this also concludes the section. Thank you.